Coming up on today's episode. What's your view on the current quality of builds hitting the market, particularly, townhouses or new builds?
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Australia's got their target was 1.2 million homes.
Yeah.
By 2029 or something like that. That's 240,000 homes a year. Our tradies are rushing to get jobs done. And when you've got trades on a piece rate or, fixed price quoting, they've got a lot of projects to get through. So a lot of jobs get rushed naturally. I'd take an older build any day.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, I've been at jobs, when I was doing installations where I'd drive a screw into the cabinet into the wall and I'd be hitting hardwood timber and it would just eat my screw. The screw would snap.
Shit.
So that's how strong the builds were back then. And look, I'm not lumping all builders into this category, but there are a lot of them that are cutting corners because they need to meet the demand quickly and cheaply. And unfortunately, speed is just the name of the game right now in the industry.
Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together. Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listen-in how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, in today's episode, we're talking to someone who's walked the job sites and now walks open homes, a buyer's agent who brings that rare blend of on-site construction knowledge and real estate strategy. So, who's this episode for? If you're a buyer who's ever walked into a property and thought, looks good, but am I missing something? Or maybe you've seen a reno and thought, is this actually value add or a future headache? This episode's for you. We're joined by Michael Cassarino, a buyer's agent who made the switch from the trades world to the property world, and is using his years on the tools to help his clients avoid costly mistakes and make smarter choices when it comes to buying. Without further ado, Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jo. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. I was going to say, when we met in our pre-interview, what stood out to me was the fact that you're a tradie. And I was like, geez, he's come from trades into the real estate world. And I'm like, that's a weapon because there's so much stuff that I wish I had knowledge on, when it comes to properties and issues. So I'm really keen to unpack it with you today.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, I think like all good stories, we have to start at the very beginning, because not everyone wakes up one day and says, I want to be a buyer's agent or I want to go to real estate. Take us back to life before real estate. What were you doing before becoming a BA?
Yeah, okay. So I actually started off as a carpenter, so trade qualified carpenter. My dad's a builder. I was, working in the family business. Did my apprenticeship in carpentry. I was even before that working on job sites at the age of 11 on school holidays. So,
yeah, Italians are rough.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
They don't give a shit.
No. Yeah. It's cheap labour,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I still made sure I got paid for it though.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah.
Far out. I got to talk to my dad who was a builder.
Yeah.
He ripped me off.
No, I was hustling from a young age.
So you always had it, didn't you?
Yeah. But yeah, I was working as a carpenter. I sort of ended up in more of a cabinetry role and kitchen installations along the way. And for up until about a year ago, for the previous 6 years, I was running a kitchen installation business, installing a lot of IKEA and Caboodle stuff, the stuff that no one really wanted to touch. So
yeah, no, that's already, I've heard IKEA and I'm internally screaming. I'm just flashing back to every moment I've ever had where, my own partner or my non-nurse said, can you put this cabinet together? I'm like, no. Well, wow, but what a turnaround. So you've kind of been born into the industry in a lot of ways through your family, like having a construction business. It teaches you a lot about, building, especially standards if, you guys were operating it that way. And then moving into, your own kind of fit out stuff. It's an interesting turn. So what was that moment for you where you kind of thought, okay, I've been doing this for a few years. I'm going to jump into the real estate side?
Look, if I'm being honest, there was a point where I stepped on a piece of timber once at work.
Right.
stepped on it the wrong way and jarred my back, and I ended up getting a bulging disc in my lower back.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So
I'm stepping on a piece of timber.
Yeah.
It's going to make me rethink everything.
Yeah. Out of all the injuries I could have had, I just stepped on a piece of timber. I use power saws, I use, grinders, tools that can,
hurt you.
Yeah. And I ended up doing it by stepping on a piece of timber the wrong way. So just wrong footing, I guess.
Holy crap.
Once I did that, I sort of had to rethink. I was like, shit, what am I going to do now? That's
yeah.
The only other thing I knew and was passionate about was property investing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, this is probably the next logical step for me now. So, I used to come home with a new cut on my hand, a sore back every day. Now I've got sore eyes from looking at a screen too long, but that's a different story.
Yeah, it's like these are different workplace injuries now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I've always had a passion for property as well. It's not like, back in the day, it's not like I'd come home from work and start scrolling my phone on how to, modify an IKEA cabinet. I'd be looking at property data. I'd be looking at the real estate news, so.
Yeah, and I think that passion plays such a big role. Like when you have that kind of passion for property, it's different when you start servicing other people because like you said, you weren't coming home and looking up like best ways to put this IKEA together or this, caboodle. It's okay, what's the property market doing? How can I invest smartly? How can I do this? So then there's obviously, that shift into I'm going to do this for other people. So, what have you brought over from your, I guess, tradie background that gives your clients an edge? Because I said that at the start, I think before we started the episode, I'm like, the reason I wanted you on is because that is such a weapon that so many times when I've done an inspection as a buyer's advocate, I'm like, I wish I knew a bit more about how this was done because just something's not right, but I don't know how to pick it. So, what do you think you've brought over from your trade background?
Look, one thing I've brought over is I know how to read and, more importantly, interpret building inspection reports quite well. For example, a buyer might see cracks in a cement bedding in roof tiles, for example, in an old property. On the report, it's likely going to be listed as a major defect because you've got risk of water getting into, inside the ceiling space and the roof space. And, some buyers would see that and freak out and pull out of the deal when in reality it's a pretty simple fix.
Yeah.
It can be fixed. It is an issue, but it can be fixed. So just understanding building reports, but also, and I hope I don't, offend anyone by saying this, but I'm also not a corporate wanker.
This is why I love this podcast. I've put it together for a very specific reason. It's no BS. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't play silly little sales games. I'm still a tradie at heart. I work my ass off for my clients. I don't stop until, they've got the outcome that they've wanted. And I think it's just that mentality that I've carried with me from my tradie background of just, shut up, head down and get the work done.
I think that's, you put it so perfectly there, right? Corporate wanker. It's true. A lot of the real estate game that you would know this now being more further in it, it's full of ego, it's full of bravado, it's sales, it's flashy, it's in your face. And what is always a breath of fresh air is when you do meet a professional, and we've had so many of them on the show, that bring this genuine down-to-earth nature. So I love, because I've been brought up around tradies, so I'm like they're always so much fun. And I think having that attitude in a real estate, someone who's representing you as a buyer's advocate is such an edge and a weapon because you're going to get something that's no bullshit. You're also going to get, like, from a service perspective, but then you're going to get that extra layer of depth that you don't typically get with another buyer's advocate. And that's, to not anyone's fault. Everyone's got their strengths, but I feel like that's your unique position in this market.
Yep.
So I guess, switching gears, I want to dive into the part that really sets you apart, construction knowledge. As someone who's worked on homes firsthand, what red flags do you notice that most buyers miss?
Look, most of the stuff is going to be picked up by an inspector and it will be in the building report, but then that's where I come in and really break down what each issue could actually mean for the buyer. For example, stains or bubbling paint on a ceiling, that's usually a sign that water has probably gotten in there somewhere, and chances are it will keep happening again until you find the source of the problem. And if water's in your ceiling, you're in a lot of trouble at that point, right? Another red flag I look for is lack of airflow in a bathroom or laundry.
Oh, interesting.
Over time, if there's no airflow, that'll cause moisture buildup and mold growth. And that's another expensive issue.
There you go.
Yeah. Having worked with kitchens for a while as well, something I notice a lot is whether the laminate, if it's laminate benchtops, whether they're sealed well around the sink area and behind the benchtop, in between the benchtop and the splashback tiles. It's an easy fix, but if it's left unsealed, it could mean an unnecessary benchtop replacement sooner than you would have liked. And then you have to, you got to take into account the cost of that. It's not just replacing the benchtop. You've got to get a plumber out to disconnect the dishwasher, the sink, and reconnect. Plumbers aren't cheap. You've got to get an electrician if the cooktop and oven is hardwired to get to the screws that are holding the benchtop in place. When you take it out, there's risk of damaging some tiles. So there's all those things that the cost will add up just by not looking after it and sealing it properly. It's a 10-minute job at most.
Wow. And that's a huge thing, because what I found interesting was you said the airflow. I'm like, I've never even thought about it like that. If there's not enough airflow, it's like, that's what's going to cause mold and going to cause a buildup over time. So when you're going through an inspection, this is the kind of stuff that you're kind of looking out for.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
And another big one as well, if I can say, is rust on a ColourBond roof. Right? That's so, and not just the roof, even the screws on the roof. And this is a big problem in up north in Queensland. Mm-hmm. Some people might see rusted screws and might not think anything of it.
Yep.
But rust spreads, and it spreads fast, and especially in tropical climates like up north. So, if the rust spreads and it causes damage, it can cause cracks to the roof, and then as soon as it starts raining, you've got water inside your ceiling space.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
No, to be honest, rusted screws, nails, would never have thought that would impact anything on a ColourBond roof. I would have thought, that's just weather exposure. What do you do? Yep. Is there anything preventative that can be done at that point?
If it's not too far gone, you can apply some. First thing I do is replace all the screws. So get someone in to replace all the screws, and then you can apply some rust guard. You can pick it up from Bunnings, and just reseal it, repaint the roof. Yeah,
far out. Yeah. It's those little things though that add up, to high maintenance in the end, and so this is part of what you're kind of looking out for.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing. I guess then the next step would be renovation side. How do you help your clients spot, the renovated but risky properties? So what is the one, the risk in smart upgrades that someone might have done on a property versus no, they've kind of done a dodgy here?
Yeah. So, not all renos are created equally. Some are done to add value long term. Yeah. Whereas others are just, lipstick to sort of push up the sale price. It's a bit like being catfished online, So.
How many real estate photos have you looked at of a property? It's like, that looks great. And then you arrive and you go, what the hell did I look at?
Yeah, exactly. Look, if it's an old place with a shiny new kitchen or bathroom, but it still has original wiring from the man who invented light bulbs, then it's probably going to need some upgrading,
Potentially,
and that can be costly, all right? I'd be looking for also consistent quality throughout the home, not just one hero room that's been, done up well. And I'm looking past the sexy cosmetic reno stuff. I'm looking at, like I said earlier, upgrades to the wiring, if there's, old copper plumbing, if there's been any upgrades to that, because that stuff doesn't add value to a property, right? No. But it's important to have when you are buying an old property, so that you minimize your risk of things going wrong.
Yeah.
But I would rather not buy. I'd rather buy an unrenovated property so I can add value. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I'd rather add value through cosmetic stuff, but just make sure that what I'm buying has all the other stuff like
yeah, it actually makes
upgrades
sense.
and all that. Yeah.
And it's so true, because normally there is a hero room, like you said. There's like, oh, they've fully renovated the bathroom. Look at that, look at that. Or they've done the kitchen up, or they've done a deck. But then you ignore, it's like what do they call it? It's like a mirage. It's like, look here, smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Just look at this room. And then you look at the rest of the house and you start looking and you're like, oh, that's pretty shit. So it's like, that's the consistency you're looking for, is like, is it everything's been maintained and upgrade, or are we hiding some shit?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I love the one where they just paint the ceiling and there's you can see all the bubbling.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh, good one. I'm going to not buy it. And I guess, what's your view on the current quality of builds hitting the market, particularly, townhouses or new builds?
Shit.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Australia's got their target was 1.2 million homes.
Yeah.
By 2029 or something like that. That's 240,000 homes a year. At the end of the day, right now, tradies are rushing to get jobs done, and when you've got trades on a piece rate or fixed price quoting, they've got a lot of projects to get through, so a lot of jobs get rushed naturally. I'd take an older build any day.
Really?
Oh yeah. Look, like I've been at jobs, when I was doing installations where I'd drive a screw into the cabinet into the wall, and I'd be hitting hardwood timber, and it would just eat my screw. The screw would snap.
Shit.
So that's how strong the builds were back then, yeah. And now it's you just don't find that anymore. And look, I'm not lumping all builders into this category, but there are a lot of them that are cutting corners because they need to meet the demand quickly and cheaply. And unfortunately, speed is just the name of the game right now in the industry.
And then that's why you're kind of saying, like, those older, more established houses, you would take that over buying, I think we're going to get to it, but it's like these house and land packages that go up, or, buy, it's cheap, fixed pricing, turnkey packages. You hear that all the time, and like, they are affordable and entry point, but then what are you buying?
Yeah.
And that's the big question that I think people don't get. So, no, and I've been through the build journey. I was spewing because my dad passed away before he could do the build for himself for my house. So we employed someone to do it. And let me just say, I'm not building ever again. I'm done. Yeah. That was trash. We built in COVID, if that helps. Yeah, right. So it's like, like you said, there's a minimum requirement that they're trying to get to. I don't know how they're going to do it, but the reality is that the jobs are being rushed, the quality is being compromised.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's also, with the housing shortage and rising prices, increased demand, and even, a lack of good quality tradespeople out there, all that stuff is just putting, so much pressure on timelines and the quality of builds.
Yeah. And it's like, it's one of those things that's, at some point we got to step back and go, well, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And I guess this is part of like that, risk mitigation that you would help your clients through. It's like, as an advocate, this is your, what you do, and you live and breathe it. It's like assessing these properties to go, no,
exactly,
doesn't look good, or no, you got a green light, make an offer. And I guess one of the, things that always happens, this is very typical for buyers, is how do you balance like emotion and practicality when a buyer falls for a home that looks great, but then you find that it has underlying issues?
Yeah. Look, buying a home can be emotional, even as an investor, especially if it's your first investment. My job is to hit them with the hard facts, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because excitement can be a very expensive emotion, all right? And that's where I step in. I slow things down, I lay out the risks, and I try to explain if they see a property that they absolutely love, they've fallen in love with, but there are underlying issues. I try and explain that it is likely someone's attempt or the seller's attempt at polishing a turd. You just can't.
Yeah.
Right? So don't fall for it. Unless it can be fixed without too much of a hassle, then sure. But, I always bring it back to why they're doing this, why they're buying a home, if it's their first investment property, it really needs to be a strong one to set the foundation of their portfolio if that's their goal. So, I always bring it back to the numbers. It might look nice, but, if it's got all these issues, then how much of their capital that, they could be using for the next one, are they willing to sink into this particular property?
Yeah.
So,
and that makes sense. It's that first property, like you said, there's a lot of emotion, even first-time investment, because you're excited. And I love what you said just before. What did you say? You said excitement is an expensive price to pay or something.
Yeah, expensive emotion, yeah.
Expensive emotion. It bloody is, because when you get pumped up, you're like, just throw money at it. Yeah. Like if I've got the money, I'll buy it. And you're just wait a fucking minute.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
What are you doing and what are you buying?
Yeah.
So no, I think that's really practical, like, solid advice. Like your job is to basically ground them and go, these are the hard facts.
That's right. And I'm not trying to kill their dream, but, it is my responsibility, to make sure that they also don't buy a nightmare, because they've got to be happy with their purchase now, but it also has to make sense in 10 years' time.
Yeah, so, that's right. And it's not like you're trying to be the the bearer of bad news or the dark cloud.
No.
It's like you've employed me to help you with a job, and this job is to help them not be emotional or too attached to a look and feel. And we're moving into this, like, I think it's the perfect time for my favourite segment and our fan favourite segment, which is Reddit Real Talk, so myth busting. We have this segment where we read real Reddit stories from buyers online who are posting their stories and their woes. Mostly they unpack, trying to unpack what went wrong, what they wish they knew and how it could have been avoided. So I want to read you a story from Reddit today and I want to get your take on it. So you're happy to get into it? Yeah. All right, so this one is a Reddit story. It's Ferntree Gully Investment Regret is what it's titled. And this Redditor says, we bought a house in Ferntree Gully in 2021, an investment property. It had been recently renovated, looked good on the surface, but once tenants moved in, everything started falling apart. The bathroom had plumbing issues, paint started peeling, floors warped due to poor sealing, and I got it inspected, but clearly not thoroughly enough. We're now looking at $50,000 in repairs with barely any capital growth, and it feels like a total trap. Lesson: renovations are often lipstick. Michael, I need your take on this. What's your take when you hear a story like that?
Look, well, first of all, I probably wouldn't have bought in Ferntree Gully in 2021.
Mistake number one.
Look, there are much better suburbs to buy in back then, and at the end of the day, the suburb is what's going to do the heavy lifting. That's what's going to give you the capital growth. It's always about the suburb first, and then the house second. I mean, you could have bought a tent in Perth back in 2021 and made money. So
true for Perth market. Yes, I agree.
But if it's an older property, let's say 1960s or prior, and regardless if it's been renovated recently or not, I usually recommend a plumbing and electrical inspection as well, just for peace of mind, because a building inspector may not pick up all the plumbing and electrical things as well. And if it's an older property, just for peace of mind, it is something I recommend.
Yeah, for sure.
Look, unfortunately, what this person bought, it was a shiny Renault on the surface, but with hidden issues underneath. And if they didn't, I probably would have been asking the building inspector some questions like, do you use a moisture meter? Because that would have been able to detect moisture behind the walls and maybe avoid some of the water issues. So.
All right, so it's like, I guess you've kind of told me what they should have done differently, and that's like who you would have questioned in that journey. What role should a buyer's agent play, especially with your background, in avoiding these types of situations?
Yeah, I mean, again, it really does come down to understanding the building inspector and the report that they provide. So I'd be, vetting the inspector first to make sure that, they're going to do their job properly. So.
Yeah, I think the inspector's a big one, right? So, and you would know exactly who to talk to because, do you find this is my uncle always says this. This is our producer's dad. So he always goes, no, building and pests all bullshit. And he goes builder knows what they're looking for. Pest is pretty simple to check for. Do you agree with that kind of mentality, or do you think that there is a difference of having a building and pest inspector, someone who can actually inspect pests?
I think everyone's different. Like I've recently come across someone who does both, and she did it really well. Others have a team so it's a building and pest inspector, but then they have their pest inspector that they use. So
gotcha, yeah. So, and for you, you've got your contacts in the industry. I think I'd trust anyone that you'd recommend. I think that's who I'd call and go, tell me who. I want to know who's not going to rip me off.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just about, vetting them properly.
Yeah. And it's equally as important, like when you're a buyer's advocate, like the team you have surrounding you to be able to buy a property is huge.
Yep.
And that's where I want to kind of go with your approach with clients. I want to talk about how you work with them, because buying a home is as much about people as it is about property. What kind of clients are you talking with at the moment, and why do they come to you, do you think?
Mainly first-time investors, people that are wanting to enter the property market, or maybe they've they have an owner-occupier, they live in a house, and they're not aware of, how much equity they have access to be able to start their investing journey. They're the type of clients that I attract, or even like my wife and I, rent investors.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. And I think the reason I'm attracting these clients is because I'm quite relatable.
Yeah.
I'm on my own investing journey as well, and I can speak from current experience. I'm not some guru who's got, 50 plus properties and is, giving outdated advice that, what worked for them doesn't necessarily work today. You know?
Uncle at the barbecue kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And another reason I attract the clients I do is because I really enjoy spending time to educate my clients along the way. I don't hide the tools of my trade. There's no secrets. I give them all the info backed up by data, and I explain what a particular data point means and how that relates to them and why it's important to them and their brief.
Makes a big difference, like that approach, right? Because data is like such a rich tool, but when you don't know how to interpret it or read it like yourself, it just seems like a nightmare. And like you said, you're relatable in the sense, I think there's a couple of BAs that have come onto the market that are quite new, who don't have their own portfolio, who've never done investing, never bought a property in their life, and they're giving out real estate advice on how to invest. You're actively an investor. You know what you're looking for. You've gone through the hard yards, and you're now just helping people have that support that you probably didn't have.
Exactly. Yeah. And the reason why I love educating my clients as well is because the more they understand, the more knowledge they have, the more confident they become in not only their purchase, but also my ability, as a buyer's agent, to go above and beyond for them. So I think one of the main reasons as well my clients come to me is because I'm genuine. My authenticity, i.e. no bullshit. I mean, that's why I'm on the podcast.
That's not a corporate wanker.
That's right.
I want to write that everywhere, but it's true, yeah.
At the end of the day, I state the facts, and, even if it means that I'm pissing off 90% of, the industry professionals out there that are, flogging house and land packages for developers. And don't get me, that's another topic. That shit gets me fired up. I hate that.
I was like, I reckon we stay on trend.
That could be another podcast. But
100% we're going to have you back to talk house and land, because a house and land is a very big beast that a lot of people fall into. So I think we need a whole other episode. I'm going to talk. I'm going to talk to Diana about that. Awesome. But I guess, going into that, like, what does the process look like, from first chat to purchase? Like, what are the typical things you take your buyers through? Yeah,
so first chat would be, I always start off with why, why do you want to buy a property first? Do you want to live in it? Do you want to rent it out? What are your goals? Do you want to build a portfolio? And why? What's your passive income goal? What's the figure and why? So I always start with why. And then I break it down and sort of reverse engineer it and, see how many properties you need to get to that goal. And the total value of those properties. It's not always about the number of properties, but, it's the value of the portfolio and the timeline and all that sort of stuff. So, once we've broken that down, then, it's full end-to-end service. So I start off with some suburb research. I narrow it down to the best suburbs, the ones that fit their brief. There's no, hot spot. Well, there's different suburbs for everyone. That's, different budgets,
Suit your
different
motivation.
timelines. Yeah, all right. And then I explain the data behind those suburbs and, how it relates to them and why it's important for their brief. Then there's property sourcing stage, both on market and off market. And I find them the best property in the best pocket of that suburb as well. Then, we do all our due diligence, we get it inspected. And, after I've completed a proper valuation on the property, and I mean a proper valuation, not a website that just spits out a
Website val.
Yeah.
The one on realestate.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Says this is the price.
Yeah. Then, I handle negotiations on their behalf. We get it, properly inspected by a building and pest inspector as well, coordinate with the conveyancer, make sure, my client understands all the legal stuff as well, the contract.
Oh, wow.
I liaise with the mortgage broker as well along the way, and I make sure that they've got all their insurances in place. And then, I see everything through right up until settlement and beyond. I'll introduce them to a property manager, and then if needed, I'll put them in touch with a quantity surveyor for, tax depreciation.
Geez, that's very thorough. You actually look after from, I don't know why I'm buying to, okay, now I know why, now I know where, now I know what. And you're guiding them through all those steps. I think one of the things that you said so accurately there was the coordination between all the people that you have in that team, like the mortgage broker, the conveyancer. Often people don't realise how much the buyer's advocate actually coordinates. It's like project management.
It is exactly like project management, yeah.
It's like, why aren't you doing your job? Do your job. It's like, oh shit, they didn't do that. And this is what you're doing. And you do it day in, day out. That's what I think people don't realise is, I can buy my own house. It's like, quit your job, go for it. It's full time. You can't tell me otherwise that it's a part-time job. It's just not. No. And, so I guess one of the, things here that I wanted to mention is you're very passionate about education, and educating clients on what to look for and how your role plays a massive, difference in that. We've covered a lot from all those red flags. Is there one bit of advice you want to leave the audience with that just in terms of property investing, what they can do different when it comes to this stuff? Any final thoughts?
Just, make sure you cross your T's, dot your I's, just do your due diligence properly because, it is one of, if not the largest asset you're going to purchase in your life, and just make sure you have the right team of people around you and, vet them properly.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. I think, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been an awesome conversation. Yep. We're going to have Michael back to talk about house and land, and I'm serious. We're getting a lot of inquiries, and I think people need to get very educated before they dive in.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. So we've covered a lot today, from tradie red flags to helping buyers avoid money traps. It's been awesome getting to hear your unique take on it. So if people want to get in touch, where's the best place to connect with you?
Yeah, a few different places. There's, my personal website, equityforge.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, under Equity Forge.
Perfect. What we'll do is for our listeners, we'll put all the details in the show notes and we'll put a directory there. So if you want to reach out to Michael, like I always say to you guys, it is free to have a chat. Pick up the phone, have a conversation. You never know where it might lead you. And if you're looking for someone who also echoes our ethos on this podcast, no BS, then Michael's your man. Have a chat if you want someone down to earth who's going to be in your corner, but also kind of like having that uncle at the barbecue that knows a shitload more than the other uncle at the barbecue who bought a house 40 years ago. Michael, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Jo.
Of course. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit follow, leave a review, and share it with someone who's house hunting right now or looking for their first investment and needs a bit of a nudge in the right direction. We'll catch you next time on the No BS Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast, powered by Abodey AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodey.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodey AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodey.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.